Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the first day of the Reds draft. I made three picks yesterday. Personally, I feel they did very well. They took Tennessee third baseman Nick Senzel in the first round. I talked about that a little bit yesterday in the video. Today I'm going to try and focus a little bit more on the other two guys they picked. With their competitive balance pick at number 35, they took high school outfielder Taylor Trammell. And then in the second round, they picked uh, Clemson catcher Chris Okey. We'll start off with Trammell. Very, very good athlete. Split time playing both baseball and football in high school. Was the Georgia High School Football Player of the Year his senior year. Ran for like 2,400 yards, had 36 touchdowns, which kind of crazy, but kind of puts in perspective the kind of athlete you're dealing with. Um, plus speed, nice bat speed, a little bit raw in general compared to the rest of his draft class. Probably because he did spend time splitting his focus on different sports through high school, whereas generally speaking, most guys taken in the first, second, third rounds out of high school um, probably spent most of their time playing baseball. Um, but he was ranked number 13 in the entire country for this draft by Baseball America, and the Reds got him at number 35. I'd expect them to uh, sign him for sure. Probably going to pay him a little bit more than the slot recommendation is, but Chris Buckley said after the draft last night, as reported by C. Trent Rosecrans of the Enquirer, that they talked with all three of the guys they drafted, and they had an idea of what the guys were expecting to ask for in signing bonuses, which that's not surprising. I'm sure the Reds have probably talked to 150 guys at this point to see kind of what they're expecting to sign for. That's just kind of how things work. So um, the Reds kind of know what they're working with and what the limitations are as far as what they're going to have to sign guys. Chris Okey, catcher from Clemson, huge season this year. You know, not really sure that not sure that the numbers really line up with the scouting report. I mean, the guy hit 339 and slugged 611 this year. Um, he had 16 doubles, had 15 home runs, big time power in college. Probably not going to be a huge power threat as a professional, but he's got average power, which plays very well at catcher. If he hits 15 to 20 home runs, that'll be very strong for catchers. You don't see too many catchers kind of pushing home run totals into that range anymore. Defensively, nothing really stands out. Solid average arm. Very athletic behind the plate, but it hasn't quite translated to him being a strong defensive catcher. Not that he's bad, but he doesn't really stand out with his receiving skills or blocking skills at this point either. Um, but again, as a catcher, he projects to be solid all around. Um, he's got all the tools to be an everyday guy. He did have some strikeout problems in college. He struck out 54 times this year. That's a bit much, but again, as a catcher, I'm not too worried about it. Catchers don't tend to carry huge offensive numbers, so as long as he can hold his own offensively, he should be fine. And I think the power is going to play plenty for the position. So if he only hits 250, 260, that'll work just fine. Um, let's see what we've got as far as some questions go. Um, all right. Vander wants to know how far over slot do I think Tram will end up signing for. I really don't have a good grasp on those things. I haven't heard any numbers floated around. Um, wouldn't surprise me if he got somewhere around 3 million, just kind of given where other places had him ranked. But I mean, again, I don't think this can be a problem for the Reds to get that deal done. Um, just a matter of when. Wouldn't surprise me if he was a rather quick sign. Um, at the same time, depending on how long it takes them to sign Senzel and know exactly how much money they have, could come into play. But I think that he's going to be a rather quick sign, and he'll wind up in Arizona with the AZL Reds pretty quickly. I think their season starts in less than 2 weeks, so I think they like to get him signed and get him out there and working with their guys. First three, where do I expect them to start? Um, again, I think that Trammell is going to wind up in Arizona. Um, I think that Okey will probably wind up in Dayton. Tyler Stevenson's been playing, or he's been on the DL. He's not playing right now. He's still in a cast on his wrist for a sprain. The Reds are going to reevaluate it here in the next couple of days, but um, it didn't really look good for a while there, and they're hoping for the best. But I'd be surprised if he played anytime soon. So I think that they would probably push Okey to Dayton, get him some time there, and then maybe send Mitch Trees, who's currently starting in Dayton, back to Billings, where he played last year. Um, and then I think Senzel is probably going to go to either Dayton or Daytona when he signs. I think that maybe it depends on how long he's out. But with the new signing deadline being in the middle of July, guys aren't sitting out until mid-August and then coming back for 2 weeks to play. So, and I guess the second part of Does push Stevenson back to Billings? I don't think so. I mean, it's possible. I'm just not sure how soon we're going to see Tyler Stevenson back on the field. It seemed that the wrist injury was kind of a bigger issue at first, and then they got some good news that it wasn't quite as bad as they thought, but they're still seemingly unsure of how long he's going to be out. So, no, I'm not dropping a Mom Meatloaf shout out in there. I mean, I guess technically that was it, but no, I can't stand meatloaf, and I've got 4 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in my mini fridge here to hold me through day 2 of the draft here, which that'll be rounds 3 through 7, or 3 through 7, 3 through 10, which is 7 rounds. Um, yeah. Um, but so that way I don't have to get up and do anything. But I think that the Reds did really well on day 1. They got the guy that was the #1 player on my board with Nick Senzel. Um, Picked up a great athlete with a lot of upside in Taylor Trammell. I really like that pick. And that kind of seems like the Reds' MO when they've got a few early round picks is they'll take an unpolished but very good athlete, um, and mix that kind of player in with college players. They did it when they took Billy Hamilton back, what was it, 2009. Uh, he was one of those raw guys who just had a ton of athletic ability, and they mixed that in when they took Mike Leake. Sometimes it doesn't work out, um, but I'm a big fan of that idea that when you've got a few high picks like that, you can really take a chance with a super athlete kind of player who maybe needs to work on some things, but um, you know I don't know. That's kind of how I view things, and I like when the Reds do that. You may miss every now and again with guys like that, but when you hit, it's very nice. Um, Chris Okey, again, as I said earlier, nothing really jumps off the page scouting wise for you, but he's solid across the board. And at catcher, you don't find too many guys like that. I mean, I'm not saying he has superstar potential. He's not going to be Buster Posey or anything like that. But if you can get a solid everyday catcher, that's huge. Most teams can't stick with one guy as their main catcher. You see a lot of platoon situations. A lot of teams that are they've got an offensive guy who will play, but he's not a good defender, and then they've got a really good defender who can't hit his way out of a wet paper bag. So when you can find that guy who can play 125 games a year because he's solid at everything, at the catcher position, that's huge. And Chris Okey looks like he could be that kind of guy. Um, it's 10:30, so we're not getting too many questions here on Twitter. Um, so I guess we're gonna call that, and I'm gonna get prepared for day 2 of the draft. Um, may or may not do one of these for the second day of the draft. We'll see how that plays out, how much time there is. Um, things go pretty quick today, as far as tracking down all the information between rounds. So we'll just see how it goes. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.